pull up a cup of coffee, and let's get this party started.
We're the uplines you didn't know you needed, but now you have.
This is the podcast for women who are building a direct sales business, but want to do it the right way.
Melanie has a decade of experience in direct sales. She's earned the top in industry 4 years in a row and has grown a multi-million-dollar organization. She gives a no BS approach to leadership, recruitment, and organization.
And my bestie Katie has you covered with the rest. From the relationships, the do's and don'ts of branding, her content has been viewed by millions. She doesn't just talk the talk, but she teaches people how to create an intentional brand too.
All right, let's get this party started.
Well, hey everybody, it is Melanie and Katie of the Direct Sales Done Right podcast. And before we hit record on today's podcast episode, we were chatting about this concept of quiet quitting. Yeah. And we were pre-gaming about what we wanted to share and how right now in the direct sales industry, we are seeing a lot of people just quietly quit. I mean, even inside of my leadership mastermind that I run, when we were doing our mastermind call this week, people were saying how quiet their team pages are and how people are not responding. And so today's episode is going to be absolutely perfect because we're going to define it. We're going to make you own it if it is you. And if you're a leader, this is really good because you can start to say, well, maybe this is what's happening in my organization.
I almost feel like we should say, do we have your permission to be really honest with you? Because I feel like this is kind of be like a uncomfortable conversation for some.
It's always uncomfortable when you are recognizing that you are the one that's actually making the decision and you're controlling it, but it's a good thing. And I always say, anytime we give tough love, it only comes from a place of love, right? Because we want to see you succeed. So we hope we have your permission. Otherwise, you probably should just go listen to another podcast episode right now, right?
Yeah. So let's kick it off with the review of the week. Okay. Let's do that first. So one thing that we absolutely love doing here is we love seeing the impact that the podcast has on you. But what that also does is it brings more awareness of the podcast to other people. So for those of you who have dropped a review on iTunes, it's super easy to do. All you need to do is head over to iTunes and then you click on reviews and then you are able to drop a review on ours. So I want to just shout out Bianca. Bianca Schillard says, I was introduced to the Direct Sales Done Right podcast through my upline and I swear by their tips and tricks for working my business. I purchased their planner, Time Blocker, and I'm working my way through their academy. Oh, yay! I love it. Academy as well. On my hard days, I reflect and listen and get right back into the game. Thankful for these ladies and all their mentorship. Well, thank you so much, Bianca. Do you want to talk about the listener of the week?
I do. Okay, so and every single week, we always pay attention to the people that tag us. So if you tag us on Chic Influencer,
on Katie, Instagram, right?
Yep, on Instagram. Yep. You can tag Chic Influencer. You can tag at Katie Rates Content, at Melanie Mitro. When you're listening to a podcast episode and you hear just a nugget, a really great light bulb moment, something that sticks with you, take a screenshot of the podcast and then tag us on Instagram and tell us what your takeaway was. We love to interact with you on social. And then from everybody that tags us, we always choose a listener of the week and we give you a little mini coaching session inside of the DMs. It's either with Katie or myself. So this past week, our listener of the week is Lori Wetzel. So Lori, if you're listening right now, send us a message on Instagram at Chic Influencer and we will get you set up with that mini coaching session.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so let's dive into this week. So one of the things that we giggle about now, but a long time ago, we were introduced to this GIF of Homer Simpson, and he was backing into the bushes. You've probably seen it before, but it's just this really funny sort of like GIF that makes you giggle, where it's just like, nothing suspicious here. Like, I'm out. Like, you don't even know I'm here.
Yep.
And
what do you call it at the end of the night when you are like, I'm just going to go home and nobody's going to see me at the end of the party? What do you call that when you're like...
Me personally?
Yeah. I mean, in general, that's kind of what it is too, where you're like at a party and everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, and you just like go leave. You're like,
you don't
peace out.
Say bye.
I don't know what the name for it is.
I don't either.
If you guys know what the name is, please send us a message over on IG. But it's when you just kind of fade out as if you never were really there. And then eventually people go, oh, what happened to Mel? She was at the party. Like, what happened? Where did she go? Right? Yep. So we have this idea of just, when it comes to people stopping in direct sales, most people don't make a large announcement that they are leaving or they are quitting unless they go to another organization. But most people just fade away. They just kind of fade into the background. They kind of just stop what they're doing. They kind of Homer Simpson it.
Yeah.
And it's called the quiet quit. And it is absolutely destroying possibly your downline. It's probably destroying your own vision, your own goals. And we want to address it because it's super quiet. And we don't even realize the impact it probably has on our businesses unless we call it out to the forefront and we acknowledge it. And so earlier this month, we were noticing some quiet quitting happening within our Direct Sales Done Right community. And the Direct Sales Done Right community is for people who enroll in the academy. It actually is the ongoing support. So it's a big part of when you would come into the academy. We want to make sure that you understand we don't break up easily. Like, we are invested in you seeing results in your business. And so the community is really developed for people in the direct sales space who want that ongoing support. So on one occasion, our assistant, Alexis, she said, I just want you to be aware, like, it's very quiet. And, Melanie and I went into our community and we were like, wow, it's really quiet. Like, what's going on? And I sent out an email and I just said, hey, I'm thinking of you. Are you okay? I know that right now this is kind of a tough season. And I want you to know I'm going through some things too. And I want you to know you're not alone. And the response from people in my inbox of just like, thank you. Like, how did you know? How did you get it? Like, just acknowledging that, yes, there is a struggle. And here are some things that I heard. I'm so busy. I feel like I just don't have time. I feel like I just keep putting out content and no one's responding. I feel like I'm taking all the right action, but it's not working, or I'm just really tired, right? I got a lot of those. And I got another one where it was just life is kind of happening. Her dad was sick and she really knew that she had to be the primary caretaker, and everything that they were saying was valid. And I want to validate that direct sales is easy to do. But it's so simple to build. It's so simple, but mentally it's not always easy. And to continue to pump the well when you don't see fruition, I just want to validate that and say, like, I get it. I know what it's like to keep pumping the well and maybe seeing other people around you figure it out or get it or look like they have had overnight success. And you just sit there and go, but I've been at it for so long and I'm just not seeing it happen. Or you think you're supposed to be further along. And it's easier to just say, maybe I didn't get it right, and just slowly fade out of the picture.
Like, nobody's going to notice if I'm not actually there.
Yeah. So I would love for you to define, if as a leader in the industry in direct sales with 11 years of experience and 10 years of experience, what are things that you have seen as quiet quit, or how would you define it to people who may not even realize that's what is actually happening?
Well, quiet quitting, and we'll do it in two ways. We'll do it from the newer person, and then we'll do it from the leadership position or somebody that's been around, for a little while. So in a person that has consistently been making sales, consistently been working towards a goal and showing up for team calls and getting on, power hours, and is really active participant in either customer groups and team events. And so what happens is that person just starts to like their numbers start to drop. So maybe where they were enrolling 5 customers a month, now they're enrolling 2 customers a month, right? So their numbers decline. And then you start to notice they aren't showing up for team calls anymore. They aren't responding to emails anymore. They're not checking into groups. They're not posting anymore. Maybe they went from posting 7 days a week on social media to twice a week on social media. And so it's this sort of gradual kind of backing themselves out of the activities that they were doing. And then usually a month later, they're nowhere to be found. They're not engaging at all. Sometimes I even see these people unsubscribe to, team emails. And so they never really, and they also avoid any sort of confrontation. Meaning, if I noticed somebody in the organization was quietly quitting, I would reach out and say something to the effect of, I noticed that you've been really quiet lately and you always show up for our Wednesday calls and I haven't seen your face in a few weeks. Is everything okay? And I usually can see that they read the message, but they don't respond. And so people don't actually want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it. They just are hoping that you won't ever notice. And then sometimes people will say, see, she didn't even notice, so it's no big deal anyways. And
take that ownership off of.
Yes, it's kind of like nobody noticed that I wasn't there. And in a leadership perspective, this quiet quitting also sometimes is a subtle shift where a leader starts canceling team calls. They stop pushing, or they stop setting up maybe specific groups. They stop doing business opportunity events. They stop running a monthly party or VIP group. And so it's just this slow step back from the pace that they were going before. They just start to pull away. And again, they stop communicating with their upline. They might not respond to messages. And then they start to say, there's something wrong with the business. Like, I don't know what's wrong. The business has changed. It's not the same that it was anymore. It's harder to find customers. Nobody wants to sign up for my team. And we're going to talk about this,
Sure.
but we start to place this emphasis on external factors, and we start to blame the business, and it becomes this thing where we begin to kind of backpedal, and we just hope that nobody notices. And really what we're doing is we're slowly letting go of all the things that had actually built the momentum to get us to that pinnacle of where we were at that specific
For sure.
point.
And then there's really, we have to look at external and internal. So for somebody who acknowledges quiet quit, like you can see it coming as a leader, and as leaders in the industry, we know the trends, we know how it works, we understand why it happens. So let's talk about the internal and the external. And then we're going to talk about things that we want you to be aware of, that we see happening, that you might be doing, that's causing you to quietly quit, even if you're not even aware of this being a quiet quit. So the first thing that we need to realize is there's probably an internal battle that's happening before before a quiet quit. Some of those internal struggles might be fears, just fears of just not achieving the goals that you set out for. Some of it could be shame, just feeling guilty that you thought that you were going to be further along than you were. Shame is really a big one, and just feeling like other people know what those goals are and you're not where you want to be. It could also be just awareness, not knowing what to do. They feel like maybe they're not getting the support. They don't really know what the action is, or maybe they're taking action and they're like, I've tried this for so long and it just isn't working. And then external factors, of course, might be the action. I actually misspoke. So action would be more external, but also the people around them. For example, if you don't have the support of family and friends, especially those closest to you, and they're in your ear saying like, see, I told you this wouldn't work, and they're rooting not for you to win, but just to say, I told you so, and that's what you feel. Externally, those factors make an impact on the quiet quit too.
They do.
And so we want to be aware of, these are the factors you need to know that might be causing you to say, I can't do this anymore. So there's internal, there's external. Really what a lot of it comes down to, in my opinion, is shame. And also just that belief, belief of like, can I be successful in this as well? All right, so let's actually talk about, here's some things that we want to acknowledge when it comes to the quiet quit and why it may not be working for you. So do we want to dive right into that?
Let's go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, if it's just this idea of a quiet quit, is we need to acknowledge our current action. And when you're thinking about why you aren't where you want to be, black and white it. And really get down to business and say, okay, well, what's the action that I am taking? And is it aligned to the goals that I have set for myself? And the basis of this is getting out a tracker. Getting out a tracker and saying, what is my tracker telling me? What is the truth? Because as we say here so often, tracking reveals trends, trends reveal the truth, truth creates change. So if you look at your tracker and you start to see where you're fading off, I'm not following up with people. Oh, I noticed in January, I was really good about invites. And then in February, I was okay. And then in March, I sent out like 4 invites. That's pretty much awareness. Like you're becoming aware of what you are or you aren't doing. And then I also want you to say, okay, well, what are my drop-offs? What are the areas where I'm like missing items altogether? Or if you aren't actually tracking, how can you say, I deserve to be further along, or I should be further along, because you don't actually know or can track the action that you're taking in your business. And the other day I was having this conversation with a client back and forth in email.
Yeah.
And she had said to me, I work all day. So she was talking about how tired she was. And I get that. I worked all day too in the early stages of my business. She's like, I work all day and then I have an hour train ride home. And she was like, I know I should be working my business for an hour. And I know that I would be further along if I did it. But I'll be honest with you, I'm tired. And I said, why don't you do this? Why don't you grace yourself and give yourself 30 minutes to do the work? 30 minutes, not an hour, 30 minutes. And then that last 30 minutes of the train ride, you close your eyes, you listen to Pump Up, whatever you need to do, give that to yourself as a reward. But when you look at things from the outside perspective of, I am not where I want to be, a lot of it comes down to what is the action you're willing to take for your business. So really tip number one is you got to acknowledge the action you're taking.
Yeah, I love that. And that really does open your eyes to the ownership that we need to take.
Right.
And the second thing is really acknowledging past experiences. And what I mean by that is sometimes what happens is we tie a situation to something we've actually experienced in the past. So I see this a lot with people in the health and wellness space. They start to lose weight and they start to get to a certain number on the scale, and then they equate it to something negative that happened. So every time they get to a certain number on the scale, right, they start to self-sabotage themselves because they relate it to that time in their life when they lost 20 pounds and then a family member died and it was a tragedy and it rocked their life. And so now their weight is now tied to this past experience. Or in your business, maybe in the past you've achieved a certain amount of success, but when you reach that success, it destroyed a relationship that was really important to you. So now every time you get close to that level of success, you begin to unconsciously self-sabotage the actual behavior. And if you actually refer back to episode 204, you can actually listen to that. It'll help you to acknowledge maybe some of your own sticking points that you've had along the way. And so, you know, when I look at people in the direct sales industry and I look at this becomes their sticking point, you really have to dig deeper.
Right.
And you have to say to yourself, okay, why is it that every time I get really close to this level of success that I self-sabotage? What does it mean? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid that my success is actually going to ruin a relationship? Am I afraid that if I fail, I am going to feel like I have been ousted, or you kind of create this story. And so we have to identify that, right? We have to identify it. And then we have to create a new truth around it, because we can take all of our past experiences and the things that we can control. And if we say every time I get, that one time I reached that rank in my company and my relationship fell apart, we can say, what am I going to do differently this time? That's important. So once we identify, I'm the problem, I'm the one that's self-sabotaging, then we can say, all right, once I get close to that rank, what am I going to do differently? Maybe when you reflected on the relationship that fell apart, you weren't making it a priority. You canceled date nights. You weren't scheduling unscheduled time where you didn't have your phone. You were, always working. And so what you can do is say, all right, black and white, I know that I can keep my relationship sacred by not canceling our standing date nights, by having unplugged time every evening from this hour to this hour. So rationally, you can rationalize it. You can choose different habits, and those different habits are going to produce a different outcome. But it's almost as though you have to work through that scenario. So you have to go through it the second time and then be able to look around and say, look, I'm okay.
Yeah.
The relationship didn't crumble. And so you can really learn from that. So it might be really taking a deeper look and saying, what is the root cause of why I'm actually quiet quitting? What am I afraid of? What is the fear? And then choosing to look at it differently based on the experiences that you've had in the past.
And I also want to add to that point too, is if you've ever had a struggle where maybe you've quit things in the past and nobody said anything or acknowledged it.
Okay.
I just want to acknowledge that you matter and your goals are worth fighting for. They are worth working towards. So I want to acknowledge that sometimes people don't speak up when you quiet quit because they don't want to step on toes, but that doesn't mean they don't care.
That's true.
So I just want to add that part of it too, especially as a leader.
So as a leader, I would almost encourage you, even though it makes you feel uncomfortable to reach out to somebody that you see quietly quitting, do it.
Yeah.
actually reach out and just not to say like, why are you quitting? But it's like,
Yeah.
are you okay?
That's it.
I actually noticed you're sort of pulling back and withdrawing. Is everything all right in your life?
Yeah.
That
You
goes a
learn
long way.
about people too.
Yes.
And a lot of times they are, some aren't willing to talk, but some are, and they really do appreciate it. And you as a leader can go, oh, okay, like they have a lot going on. I need to maybe shift the way I am leading them to get results. And that actually leads to point number 3, which is I want you to acknowledge for a second that you are a human being having a human experience. So of course, from time to time, self-doubt is going to trickle in, or shame is going to trickle in, or guilt is going to trickle in, or just that self-doubt, it's going to raise itself to the surface, and you're going to wonder if you are cut out for it. That is all normal. We have both done it in the direct sales industry as well. And so where this happens, instead of saying, I have to quit, or I'm going to just slowly fade away, instead just take a breath, take a minute, take a day, take 24 hours, whatever it might be, take a Sabbath, like enjoy the Sabbath and go, it's okay. It really is okay. I just needed a minute to catch my breath. And I also want to acknowledge that for 1 second too. Sometimes when we pause long enough to just take a breath, to step away, to get away from our work, creativity can seep in. And when creativity seeps in, you go, oh, I am good at this. I know what to do. I just needed to take a break. And the last point that I want to address with quiet quitting is it isn't about you needing to do more. It's about evaluating the work that you are doing, and more importantly, why you are actually doing it. One of the questions I ask people in the Chic branding experience is, why do you do what you do? Like, why does it matter to you? And in most cases, the surface level answer is, I just want to help people. And I always say kind of to object that is like, of course we all want to help people. We're humans. Like we all want to help people, but you can help people by like getting the groceries, or you can help people by like helping them cross the street. But why are you committing this time and energy and effort into your business? Why does it matter to you? And you have to scratch below the surface, and you have to go a little bit deeper, and you really have to figure out why this work matters to you. When I started, it was simple. I wanted to get the groceries paid for, because the idea of fighting over the Excel budget sheet with Mike another night was enough to drive me absolutely crazy. And that why is what drove me. And yes, I wanted to help people, but more importantly, I was willing to do the work because I no longer wanted the pain that was associated with fighting over finances. And so when you have attached your why to a pain, and you attach your why to something bigger than just helping people, and not that those things don't matter, but you really have to go deeper, there's less likelihood of you quietly quitting. It's just you taking a breather. It's taking a moment.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this right now and you're going, wow, Katie and Melanie, you are hitting the nail on the head, and I am quietly quitting, and I'm kind of wanting to put my tail between my legs and continue to Homer Simpson into the bushes, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to have the courage to acknowledge, okay, this is the reality. I'm starting to retract, but I really do want more. I want more income. I want more opportunity. I want a community. I want to thrive in my life in some way. And you're just saying, and I feel like I need a community of women to surround me. Lift me up, give me a roadmap, teach me the framework for success. We actually would like to invite you in, because right now our Direct Sales Done Right Academy is actually open for enrollment. And our academy is a great place for you to refresh your mindset. It is a great place for you to recommit to those daily action steps. It's a great place for you to feel supported and encouraged, seen and heard, and for you to know, okay, if I want to increase my income, I want to build my direct sales business, that we have a framework that actually works. And this Direct Sales Done Right Academy is a great place for you to do that. It has lessons that you can do at your own pace. We have a great workbook that comes alongside of it, and a community where you're able to ask questions on a daily basis and feel supported. So let's just imagine for one moment, if in 5 weeks, by the time you finish this academy, you're making money, you're energized, you're excited, you're surrounded by like-minded people, and you're overcoming some of those self-limiting beliefs that were holding you back before. How would that feel? If that to you is something that you really need, we want to invite you to actually click the link here in the show notes and sign up for the Direct Sales Done Right Academy. It's a great service, and then you have access to it forever, and we would love to have you as a part of it and help you reach your goals too.
Awesome. All right, quick client love that I want to just get to. Quick testimonial is you always hear and identify your ideal client, but until the Direct Sales Done Right Academy, I didn't feel I had a step-by-step roadmap for clearly defining who that is. Now that I took the course, I clearly understand who I want to work with, who I best serve, and how social media is the vehicle to connecting with her. All right, and truth bomb of the week, very simply, you don't need to quiet quit. You just need to take a breath.
And join the Direct Sales Done Right Academy.
I agree. I agree. All right, you guys, we will see you next time on the Direct Sales Done Right podcast.
All right, so if you loved today's episode, make sure you head over to wherever you listened to the episode today and leave us a rating and review. And also take a little screenshot and tag us on Chic Influencer. We'll feature you in our stories. Plus, we'd love to get your feedback and hear from our listeners.
Until next week, let's make chic happen.